Raquel Welch demonstrates that you really only need one image to become an icon. I'm thinking, of course, the image of her in 1 million years BC, where she's standing there clothed in only an animal skin bikini. And I can't think of a more abiding sexual image over the years.
This is the way it was 1 million years BC, starring the most publicized girl in the world, Raquel Welch. Remember the name. You can't forget the woman.
I don't think the American public had seen an actress in that brief of a costume. So when you saw this incredible body, I don't think there was a guy in the world that didn't say, who is that girl?
For an entire decade, that was one of the most famous images of female kind of voluptuousness that was in existence.
Morning, Mr. Moon.
Morning.
I've brought you all something to eat.
Thank you.
Well, she was sort of part Latin with an excellent figure, you know, and she'd had 2 kids by then. I mean, it was fantastic, really.
Would you help me with my buttons? I seem to be off thumbs this morning.
She was seen very much as a real kind of dash of exoticism, kind of almost dangerous sexuality, a bit of edge to it. And a movie like Bedazzled, the original with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, she'll walk into the bedroom in a bikini and it feels like this otherworldly, exotic beauty, and she represented this whole world of opportunity and temptation and sin that was out there.
Listen, would you like a nibble?
Starring Raquel Welch.
Happened to be one of the sexiest women, maybe the sexiest woman in America today. If you haven't guessed already, I'm talking about the one and only Raquel Welch.
I've always been fascinated by movies since I was just a little child. I think they affected me so much. I mean, I didn't think that movies were real. I didn't think they were a reality. And then when I found out that they were, I wanted to be a part of them. So it was very much, you know, a kind of an awakening to me, and helped me know what it was that I wanted to aim for in life as a vocation and as a profession.
Playboy lists her among the top 3 sexiest stars of the 20th century. She, Jane Mansfield, and Marilyn Monroe.
I just always wanted to be an actress, and then fortunately when puberty arrived, I started getting some of the equipment, and I realized that this could be helpful.
How did you become involved with Hanny Calder?
Well, actually this came to me. The girl was very proactive, and she had, well, she was on a vendetta, really. She was a little bit like a female version of, what shall I say, like a Chuck Bronson or somebody who had a reason to make things right. And so she was avenging herself for the murder of her husband and burning of her ranch and her farm down. And of course, then she was raped by this band of crazy guys. That actually, you know, they didn't look very menacing. Well, they did in a way.
How aware of this you were. Like when the scenes were there together, there was kind of a slapsticky kind of...
Oh yes, there were a lot of different flavors in there. And Strother Martin, of course, was just so extraordinary to watch. I mean, he, you know, they call action, and then he would be Strother, and he was just, you know, completely off the wall. And so special and so gifted in that crazy, eccentric way of his that, I mean, it was impossible for him not to do something that wasn't just unique and special in that Strother Martin kind of a way. And then we had Ernest Borgnine, who was Academy Award-winning actor, Jack Elam, and I guess that was
those guys are kind of like, as we were talking, but backstage, kind of like a whole thing of westerns.
Character actors, yeah. So that was all great. And then Robert Culp, you know, who was I Spy, and he's very dry. He was very dry. He barely ever came out of his trailer to talk to anybody, so it was a little remote. But that was his way, and very nice man, very good actor. Christopher Lee, of the Dracula fame, who played the gunsmith, and let's see, who else? Oh, we had Diana Dors playing the hooker.
The British Marilyn Monroe, as she was described.
Yes, well, that was a stretch, wasn't it? So, I mean, we love Diana, but you know, not even in the same ballpark, right? Not true. But you know, they will try the Limeys to make it. Well, they can't win at everything. Every year there's all those wonderful, classic British actors who win all the Academy Awards, but they can't do Marilyn Monroe, and they can't do John Wayne, and they can't do certain things that we can do, and they absolutely can't do it.
And then finally, your friend Stephen Boyd.
I could be Diana Rigg.
You have a very adventurous look today.
I have a very adventurous look.
Yes. And Stephen Boyd with his cameo.
Yes, Stephen Boyd was from,
Fantastic.
Fantastic Voyage. Yes, he was my big crush in Fantastic Voyage, and he was like Paladin riding in on his horse. Yeah, I got to see him again.
Well, now, this was, A Handful was one of those first revenge kind of.
Yes, yes. And so in a way, it was the classic male Western role or kind of an action character, central character that was now played by a woman.
Right.
So that was a little different, and I kind of liked that idea, for myself, because I could see that there was a kind of an action genre now for me that was shaping up. I've had dinner, so unfortunately I'm so interested. Excuse me.
Now, let's talk about your preparation for the role, because you're riding horses, you're shooting guns. How much of that stuff did you really do?
Oh, of course I did it. Of course I did it all. And I was pretty experienced. The first Western that I ever did, which you don't have in this series, was Bandolero, with Dean Martin and Jimmy Stewart, which was really a very, very good movie, and directed by Andrew McLaughlin, who was kind of from the John Ford School of Western direction. And so I learned how to ride for that movie from a very famous stuntman by the name of Hal Needham. And Hal Needham was the director of Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, with Burt Reynolds. And Burt used to be a stunt guy, and that's how they two really knew each other from the onset. And then later on, they did that big hit movie together with Burt. And so
he was a legendary stuntman before he directed. Yes, so you could have learned from the best.
Yes, so Hal taught me how to ride, and he gave me a horse called Joker. And I didn't know what the joke was for a very long time. But then it turned out that Joker, whenever he would cross a stream or any body of water, liked, when he got to the other side, he liked to roll. To dry himself off.
Oh boy.
But I was still on the horse when we got to the other side. And of course, they're all waiting for it, They're going, she's on Joker, she doesn't have any idea. Roll of action, and there I come, And then he gets to the other side and he goes, rolling over, and I went, Wow. Well, I was breaking up, I came over and lifted the horse off of me.
Wow.
I mean, what can I tell you? These guys, that do the Westerns, they're really, macho men type of guys, and they think these things are funny. But that was my first Western, and then after that I kind of knew, because once you do learn how to sit a Western saddle, then you pretty much know that for life. It's like a bicycle. Although I can't say I was as good a rider as, let's say, Clint Eastwood or somebody like that.
Well, and now, of course, it followed Myra, Breckenridge, and then just preceded Kansas City Bomber. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was, again, because it strikes me during other Q&As, you talked about how you would talk to directors, you would ask them about things that they had planned for you. And so it seems that you had a little hand in what you were picking and choosing, or what you were trying to do. And
I was trying to make the best of a very, kind of the bad situation. Really, I didn't, there was no real plan for my career on the part of the studio. And, just whatever came along, tried at Myra Breckenridge, but that was sort of ill-fated in a crazy kind of way. But it was a wonderful opportunity for me in other ways. But this was a different kind of a thing. And but I was cognizant all the time of the fact that, I knew whether this was going to reinforce something in my image or not. But the whole thing that really worked for my sex symbol image was the fact that I was left with just the blanket. So then, of course, I wore the blanket poncho style, akimbo, you know what I mean, over the body. And the gun holster. And that was it. And so that made good, another good poster for them. And that's pretty much why they put the money up for the movie.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about the blanket poncho, and whether or not...
I'm not making it to Lincoln Center. Somebody nuts. They were written into the script, he did arbitrarily, so you're going to walk around with a poncho. No, that was the way. She was left with nothing. Everything burned to the ground, and she was left, after the banditos finished with her, and she had that blanket that was left, and so she wore it. I think there's lots of times, since the studio system is dead, unless you happen to be a television actress, you really do not know what's going to be next. It's really kind of a grab bag for many actresses. And that's why you see a lot of highs and lows in an acting career, unless you're playing a persona. And after the studio system was dead, we didn't have those kind of personas for film stars. I don't know. Am I boring you to tears?
This is why we're here. No.
Betty Davis was very Betty Davis. Marilyn Monroe was very Marilyn Monroe. Doris Day was always Doris Day, for the most part. 90% of their career. And that was a persona. They played that persona over and over and over again. I don't know that I have a Raquel Welch persona that appeared over and over again in all my different movies. It seemed like it was a mixed bag.
Well, I would say
nobody really did know what to do with me and what my persona was. And this kind of avenging angel, so to speak, that had to learn how to use a gun and try to get tough, coming from a very vulnerable situation, was something that I thought maybe I could do something with. But, I never really did engineer my career. I was happy that I had some variety, because certainly I didn't want to just be, bikini movie one after the other like that. That would have been, I don't think I would have survived.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, it was to your credit that every role was not exactly like the right role.
Yeah, I suppose.
Absolutely.
It would have been nice if I found a persona, because that would have worked. People do like continuity. They like to know what it is that they're going to expect. I do think that that's one of the things that served someone like Clint Eastwood very, very well. We know what the Clint Eastwood persona is, and we go there expecting that, we like it, and we'll pay money for that. I don't think that I had that going for me.
Okay. Yes, I would say that because, as you say, you're coming at the conclusion of a studio system, and then what I
yes,
say.
Yes, and then what you call freelance is really what it is, And I remember sitting next to Betty Davis at one of those award dinners. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award or something, and I was flanked on one side by Burt Reynolds, and on the other side by Bette Davis. She said to me, the problem with the actors today is they take so long in between projects, because they have to build the thing, they have to find the project, and then they have to put it together, and they have to get the financing and all this stuff. She said, so Dustin Hoffman, sometimes it's 5 years in between features. She said, that's no good because the audience needs continuity. That's why our television stars have such a strong following, because we get to see them over and over again doing what we know we like them to do. After the studio system was over, I mean, Marilyn was a prime example. Marilyn was always Marilyn. I mean, basically, she really, really was, you know. And she invented that persona, and it suited her very well. She did it beautifully, and like nobody else ever could. But we knew what we were going to get with Marilyn.
Now, did you find, as you you started doing a lot of stage work in the year and Victorian and those things?
Well, that was.
I mean, was that kind of more comfortable for you because you were working a lot, you were working constantly, as opposed to, you know, spacing out films with?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I loved doing the theater. Yes, I did. I did like live performing. But I didn't, you know, after 40, you have a lot different opportunity as a woman in film, unless you are Meryl, or somebody of that ilk, Helen Mirren, or somebody, you know, Judith Dench, that kind of thing. You're not going to have so many opportunities to work, because they're going to sort of move on to the next crop of girls.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask you is that, you know, at this point, you know, the kind of roles that you've played and the career as it is you know, progressed from this point, what would it take to, you know, to get you to do? I mean, would it have to be a big studio picture? Could you see yourself in a tiny little indie film?
I could do an indie film. Sure, I could do an indie film. I would be happy to do an indie film if the part was interesting. You know, because probably you'd be working with maybe a very young, untried director, so you got to pray to God that this guy is, you know, knows what he's doing. You know, actors do need help, and so often you get on the set and you ask the director what he thinks about the character, what it is that he might have to offer, so that you can kind of direct yourself a little bit in the right direction. And they don't have anything really to say to you. You just have to invent it all on your own. And they find it almost a little unusual that you would ask. So, I don't know. There are also, I suppose, the Norma Jewisons of the world, and people like that who are very collaborative, and, you know, they have all these little pre-rehearsal meetings between the principal characters, and then they have a rehearsal, so they try all kinds of different things and discover. But there's many, many people, many actors and directors, I mean, many directors who work with actors in a very remote fashion. They aim the camera, shooting, you know. We'll hope for the best. Maybe the key is not to worry about it and just be there. That's the best advice in this day and age. But
well, that's the thing, and I think that, you know, for a lot of, wonderfully talented indie directors, you know, they don't have these huge budgets to work with, and they would go, well, I wouldn't have a chance in hell of getting a record.
I don't know about that. I really don't know. I don't think that they're standing in line. Let's put it that way.
I've got a few of them out here, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. That's how much.
Well, then the last question I wanted to ask you tonight is because, you know, we're coming, as far as your personal appearances with us.
We're not doing 100 Rifles in this group, not tonight.
Not tonight. Not tonight. We are
Oh, good, because 100 Rifles is a really good Western.
Yeah.
And God bless him, the director, Tommy Grise, he's passed away of a heart attack, actually, not so very many years after he finished that. But that was quite interesting.
So, okay, can you tell us about that?
Well, it was Jim Brown, who was the romantic interest with me, and I was playing a revolutionary, and again, pump action, shotgun, that time. And I think that was before Henry Calder.
Yes.
Before Henry Calder.
Yeah, that preceded.
And Burt Reynolds. And it was, you know, it was an action western, and then we had the Federales, and it was supposed to take place in Mexico, but we actually shot it in Spain, in what they call the Spanish desert, in Guadix, which is a very long drive every day, something between 2 and 3 hours to and from location. So it was like crack of dawn, you know, driving just to get to your trailer so you could get in costume, made up, and what have you. So it's good, you know, it was a lot. And 6 days a week, always on locations like that you shoot.
And it's tough. It's very, very tough. Hours. And you're yawning, and I don't blame you.
And I think with that film also, maybe of course, there's the reaction to you doing scenes with Jim Brown.
Oh yes, that's true. Yes, that's true.
And at that time, can you give us like what your take on that was? How all that
Well, I always had a little color blindness myself, in the sense that it never really mattered to me. If you were, a good actor, I mean, I would be, then it didn't matter, what race you were at all. I'd be happy to work with whoever. So it was never a problem for me to work with Jim Brown. He was a football star, though. He was not known. He had made movies, but I didn't know what kind of an actor he would be. And I found him to be very charming when I met him on the lot at 20th Century Fox. So I did say, sure, I'll work with Jim. And I had never met Bert before, and I really had never seen Dan August. So I didn't even know what Bert was all about until I'm sitting in the airport in Madrid, waiting for the private plane. We have a little small private plane to take us from Madrid to the south of Spain, to the Costa del Sol, so where we're going to stay to shoot. And so all of a sudden, there's paparazzi running around on the, and I'm hidden down in this little small plane, and I see this guy walking towards me across the tarmac, and he's got this real macho walk on him. And I'm thinking, holy shit, who is that? Jeez, he's hot. And then, you duck down because these guys are with their flashbulbs and everything. The guy gets on, and it's Bert. He says, hi, I'm Bert Reynolds. And I went, yes, indeed you are. Oh, this is going to be fun. He was just very cute, really, really great personality. And just had that thing about him, He was just very self-possessed and very macho, and a great sense of humor. He had everybody laughing all the time. And I mean, when he met Jim Brown, he nearly knelt down and kissed his ring, because Jim was, the all-time great running back, and Burt Reynolds used to play football, and he was a great athlete. He was a stunt guy, professional stunt guy before he broke in as a major actor.
Did you ever have the opportunity to see dailies as you
Hardly
shot?
ever. No, they didn't really show you too much on most of the films I worked on. And many of them in the 60s we shot on location, and they would send the film back to wherever it was. If it was a British film, they sent it back to London, or in this case we were in Spain, but they would send it to Madrid, I guess, or wherever, or they would send it back to Los Angeles, and then the director would tell us whether, and he would always say something good, of course. You're going to say you sucked in that. Calm down. But you'd have to ask, well, why did you let me suck? Couldn't you help? It always amused me. Why couldn't they help when it's happening right in front of their nose? Couldn't they just say, just a second, all right. And they did, really, I don't think that's the right approach for this particular moment. Just let's not do that. Or can you do this? Let's try this. Very seldom does that happen.
Surprises?
Yes, surprising.
I did these other 35 crazy movies, and that helped me too.
We have some
not so crazy.
Oh, I ended up doing, a lot of movies. I don't know, 35. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Some of the 35 movies I did, 40 movies.
I mean, I made more than, I don't know, 45 films. It's amazing, really.
I always watch Some Like It Hot if I can see it. I always watch Frank Capra if I can see it. I always watch Billy Wilder if I can, if that's on. And I always felt that I was one of those people that was like a musical comedy person, that I would be more like a Rita Hayworth type of a person, or Betty Grable, that you'd sing and dance and you do this light comedy for.
Sure.
Well, I found all of my leading ladies sexy in different ways because I don't think there's just one type of sex appeal. I mean, I love Kate Hepburn because I find her very, very beautiful. But she's not the typical sexy. She's not thought of as sexy, but I think that word is overused, you know. I really do, and believe me, I know what I'm talking about there. Then with Audrey Hepburn, she's kind of high style and elegantly sexy. And then in the case of Lauren Bacall, she was just had that sultry thing that I do relate to that. And maybe because of my Latin background, I have that kind of thing where I like a little heat. And so I think, to me, there's all these different kinds of sexuality or sex appeal. And I thought all of our leading ladies had it.
So, who's got a goodie out there? Who's got a goodie? Stand up.
Hi, I just wanted to say you're beautiful.
Thank you.
And
inside and out, I love visiting with her. She's funny.
My grandmother actually took me to see Fuzz. Is that?
Oh yes, yeah, with Burt Reynolds.
We had such wonderful chemistry with Burt Reynolds. Do you
know.
have an actual favorite leading man that you've worked with?
Well, you got him right there.
That's a goodie.
You really had great
love
news.
him. I mean, Burt, you know, Burt, what makes Burt fun is he's fun on the set. You know, he hasn't got his nose all the time in the script, and he's, you know, he jokes around, and he's kind of flirtatious. He's kind of cocky, as we all know.
Yes.
And he's just fun. And
I remember that play, Girl. I don't know about you girls. That was fun.
You know, yeah.
He was the April '72 centerfold.
And it's kind of, he's flirtatious in a way. And so it's kind of more fun to be on the set, you know, when that's going on. It's sort of, you know, keeps your spirits up.
This lady is an icon, and we're incredibly lucky to have her on the show. Boy!
It's the police! It's the police! Who the hell is that? It's the police! What police? We're the police! Bert! Who's in the car? Charlie. Charlie! Move in! Yeah, will you stop lying to us?
Detective McHenry, a special assignment. Look out for the wet paint. Well?
This goddamn place is driving me crazy.
What do you mean we're inept?
Get him on. Get him on. Come on.
Bert. Get the zipper down.
Well, all right. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Get the radio.
Oh. Would you wait a minute? Goddamn thing.
Well, it was there.
Oh!
Please! Hold on! Stop!
Stop, please.
Who we chasing? I don't know!
Hi, I'm Josh Olson, and this is Trailers from Hell. And today we're going to talk about a city with no name and a man with many. It's Burt Reynolds and Raquel Welch in Fuzz. It must be a 70s caper flick. Well, actually, it isn't. It's Fuzz. It's a police procedural. I love that. That's speed dial, 70s style. That technology probably lasted for about 4 weeks, but it made it into the film. When you think about it, it probably took longer to use your speed dial card than it did just to dial the number. You gotta love a trailer that gives away the ending of the movie at the beginning of the trailer. It's actually kind of a terrible, lackluster trailer here. It's an odd film. It's got some really solid performances from a great cast. Burt Reynolds, Raquel Welch, Tom Skerritt, Jack Weston, Yul Brynner. They're all quite fine in this, quite enjoyable. It was directed by Richard Culla, a perfectly serviceable TV director with credits on everything from McCloud to the Growing Up Brady TV movie. But where it gets interesting is with the writing credits. Based on a book by Ed McBain, the screenplay was by Evan Hunter. What's interesting about Ed McBain and Evan Hunter is that they're both the same guy. His name is Salvatore Lambino, And he worked at a literary agency in New York and started writing books. His first success was a book that got made into a movie called Blackboard Jungle, which he wrote as Evan Hunter. He also wrote science fiction. One of his other names was Richard Marston. He wrote the tawdry melodrama Strangers When We Meet. And he was so prolific he had to use different names. At one point, his publisher asked him to write a detective book, and he came up with what became the 87th Precinct series, which he wrote as Ed McBain, which for me and a lot of other people, it's what he's best remembered for. It was a series of books about a group of detectives working in an unnamed city, and they were pretty solid procedurals. In the film here, they kind of amped the comic tone of it.
Kill Randall! Come on, kill you silly son of a...
Which isn't really a mistake, it's just kind of odd.
He gave me $5 to bring it over here.
What do he look like?
A bald-headed guy with a thing in his ear.
And they named the city. They shot it in Boston. They acknowledge that it's Boston, even though in the books the city has no name. I imagine because the idea of not naming the city probably seemed a little bit radical at the time. But less than 10 years later, the TV show Hill Street Blues would pay homage to McBain by doing the same thing. It was a procedural show set in a city that they never named. I think everyone always thought it was New York, but they never actually stated that. The film's kind of wacky, it's kind of dated. They get a lot of mileage out of Raquel Welch being a female cop. My God, whoever heard of such a thing? Oh, and she's hot, too. They definitely played up the sexiness of their two leads, even though Burt Reynolds never takes his shirt off in the film. It's funny, that's a shot from the poster of the film. Burt Reynolds never takes his clothes off in the movie, but that is a recreation of his centerfold that he did at the time.
How do you feel about all this, Steve?
You know, what's great about you being in New York is the Lincoln Center Film Society.
Yes.
What are they doing over there?
I have no idea.
No, yes, you do.
Well, I've been over there the last couple of days, and there's 2 more days of it. The Film Society of Lincoln Center is doing a retrospective tribute to me.
Yes.
And all my movies, not all my movies, but a number of my movies. I think the things that I always have responded to are movies about women and the roles that women play. I like strong women.
Showing us that she can be also one tough lady, Raquel portrayed a rough roller derby queen in which movie? What was the name of that movie? Kansas City Bomber, you're on a roller street for three.
Barry, can you tell me a little bit about how Kansas City Bomber came to be, and especially working with the epic Raquel Welch?
How the film came about is quite an unconventional circumstance. I was a UCLA film student and had written a script about the roller derby, which was kind of this subcultural phenomenon in the early 70s. And I thought it would be a great backdrop for a movie. It had never been done before. I looked at it and I thought, what a great backdrop for a movie. Nothing had ever been done in that regard. And I thought it's a great concept for a film. And I thought, you know, this would be, you know, a terrific subject, and it would possibly be something that might get made and might people might go see, because I mean, if they were as fascinated by it as I was. I don't remember exactly what I was writing at that particular moment, but I thought, you know, the next script I write, you know, this could be great fodder. And also, because there were women on the team, I thought those were interesting too, because, you know, women fighting and that whole, you know, that whole macho, female macho aspect of it. And I thought using a female character, roller derby queen, would be just a great way to tap into the pop culture of the era, the early 70s. You know, it just was fresh. It was original to me. It's something that never had been done in a movie before. So I thought, you know, boy, to come up with the idea for a character that was in this kind of a situation, and what would compel her to go into it, and how would she survive in it. And I just thought it was very colorful and very rich and had a lot of dramatic possibilities to it. I remember I wrote the script itself. I did a lot of research on the script. First of all, I took it to, there was a company at the time that I was going to develop it with. And they set up all the research facilities. In other words, they put me in touch with a lot of the skaters and a lot of the team managers and owners and that. So I spent many weeks, I think I must have spent 10, 12 weeks just doing actual research. And then the actual writing probably took 6 or 8 weeks for a first draft. But my original concept for it was not a Raquel Welch type. It was a much more unattractive, heavier girl, because that was the prototypical roller derby. You know, you didn't see too many Raquel Welch types in roller derby. There was a couple of attractive women, but most of them were not. And that was my original idea, was to go with more like, you know, there was an actress at the time named Holly Near. Do you remember her at all? She was not a big star, obviously, but she was a terrific character actress, and I sort of envisioned that. And then, you know, I talked to, you know, the producer that I was going to do it with was talking, you know, was trying to get it more into the, well, we need a star kind of thing. And I was thinking who the stars were at the time, and then it just hit me that, you know, and I envisioned the protagonist as the female heroine, a female roller derby skater, and Raquel Welch being this kind of pop culture icon would be the perfect person to play it. And she was, you know, one of the big stars, movie stars at the time. And I had envisioned Raquel Welch, who at that time in the early 70s was, you know, pretty much the biggest star in Hollywood, or one of the two or three. And I thought, you know, I'm envisioning this script with her in mind. Raquel Welch was a huge star at the time. You know, this was like early 70s, and I'm thinking, who were the big stars at the time? Jane Fonda. Well, she wasn't going to do it. She just did They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Streisand. She wasn't going to do it. But Raquel was a huge star. She really was.
So Raquel was your initial?
Yes, because she was, and I liked her, you know, in most of the stuff I saw with. I thought she was underrated, and I thought she had the potential to do, you know, something really good, something very dramatic. And I thought, boy, you know, if I could hit the right note, kind of mold the character to fit her, and that could show her in a whole new light, in a more dramatic light, that she would respond to it, and it would be a way of getting the movie made. And if she succeeded in the part, as I knew she would, then I thought, you know, it could be something. And I had an agent at the time, and gave him the script, and got his notes, and did some revisions, and I said, what, you know, we talked about how are we going to get off the ground. I said, it's a star vehicle. I think we've got to get it to one of the female stars. And it was ICM, which was the company. It was ICM before they became ICM. They were called CMA at the time. They had a whole stable they were the #1 agency. And they had a stable of stars, and Raquel was a client there. And I said, let's get it to Raquel. He says, great. So, you know, I'm always somebody who doesn't believe in just letting other people go ahead and do it. I've always felt, you know, if something's got to be done, I've got to do it myself. I'm, you know, very kind of aggressive in that way and persevering in that way. So I envisioned that script sitting on a stack of 30 other scripts, and, you know, her never getting to it, and I just knew instinctively that she'd respond to this material.
So why don't you take us on a journey back to 1972 and tell us a little bit how this project happened.
And I thought, I've got to get it to her some way other than just through normal channels in which, you know, she might never read it, or it might just sit there, whatever. So I said, you know, I was very impulsive and impetuous and very kind of a little bit ballsy. Okay, sure, yeah. So my initial instinct was to get it to her company. Her husband owned they ran a production company called Kurtwell, right. Patrick Curtis at the time. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take it up to him and introduce myself and say, you know, I wrote the script for your wife, and I think she'd be great in it.
I was looking for a project that would change my career around a little bit and maybe be a bit surprising, and there would be no bikinis or anything like that.
So I found out the address, I called information, got the address of Kurtwell Productions. And strangely enough, it was a street in Beverly Hills. It was not it was a residential street. It wasn't a commercial street in Beverly Hills.
And as fate would have it, living in Beverly Hills, there was a theater arts student, screenwriting master at UCLA.
So I got one of these maps to the stars' homes, and her house was on it.
He told me later when I met him that he bought a map of the stars' homes.
And I found out, I located the address, and I started driving up, and it was in one of the canyons. And I took the script, and I found out, charted the path up to her house, and located the address, and sure enough, it was in front of this big, beautiful house in Coldwater Canyon. And I realized it was not an office, it was their house. And I thought to myself, boy, do I have the nerve to go up to their house and ring the doorbell? Thinking, why not? What do I have to lose? Now, let me, granted, this was the days before stalkers, and this was 1970, 71, whatever. And, so I didn't have that, to stop me. I mean, I just felt, well, why not? What do I have to lose? What are we going to do? Say no? Get out of here? Slam the door in my face? And I got up to her house and I rang the doorbell.
Oh my goodness!
And
great.
I mean, you have to do this.
It's
I
a
guess
word
to
called
break in.
chutzpah.
Yeah, it was kind of a brash thing to do, but I was like a 19-year-old kid at the time, and I thought, it's do or die. Now, I wouldn't advise that today. We're kind of in an era where you're liable to get shot if you try doing that. But it was the early '70s. It was a much more a calmer time, let's say. So I was able to get away with it. I mean, I just felt, well, why not? What did I have to lose?
Did you expect her to be the one to answer the door?
I wasn't sure. Okay. I didn't know. I had.
Were
no
you
idea.
hoping?
Well, yeah, you're always hoping.
And it happened?
No, it didn't happen.
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. So I parked my car right in front of the house, took the script, went up to the front door, rang the doorbell. Secretary answered the door, her assistant, and I said, I'm a UCLA film student. I've written a script for Raquel, and I think she'd be great in it. And she's kind of taken aback. Well, this is very unusual behavior. We've never done this before, but she was a little bit surprised, but willing to at least hear me out. And then she said, well, look, she says, I'll tell you what, I'll take a look at it, and if I like it, I'll pass it on to Raquel. I said, great, that's all I can ask for. I mean, who better to read it than her personal assistant, who obviously read most of her stuff. And if it was as good as I thought it was, it would only be to her credit to pass it on to Raquel.
Exactly.
I said, great. So she I gave her my number, and she actually gave me her phone number. She did tell me that Raquel was in Europe. She was shooting a movie in Europe, which turned out to be that Western that Hanny called it, remember?
Right.
She said Raquel wouldn't be back for a few weeks, but she would read it in the interim. All right, so several weeks passed, and I didn't hear anything. I didn't expect to, and then a few more weeks passed, and I read that Raquel was back, and she put that down, and I still hadn't heard, so I was getting a little concerned. So I called the assistant. Her name was Vesta, V-E-S-T-A. I called Vesta, and I said, hi, Vesta, it's Barry Sandler, remember me, I'm Kansas City Bomber. Oh, of course. And I said, hi, some weeks have gone by, and I was just curious to know what, the status of the project was. She says, she read it, liked it, and I told Raquel about it. Raquel's back from Europe, and she likes the title, The Kansas City Bomber, and she sounded very interested, very intrigued, and she's going to get to it as soon as she can. Great. I said, terrific. Hung up. Yeah, can't ask for more than that. Okay, so it's in play.
The nanny actually read it first and said, this is pretty good.
Gave it to Raquel. Okay, so went on with my life. A few more weeks passed. I still hadn't heard. Now, this is where it gets murky in my mind. I don't remember exactly but this was a situation where she had the only draft of the script or something. So for some reason I needed the script back, and I don't know why. I mean, I guess it was, stupid of me not to have made a copy, but I don't know what. In all that impetuousness, I wasn't thinking practically, right? I needed it back, and I called Vesta, and I said, I need a copy of the script, and I'll run off Xerox, and I'll bring it right back. You have my only copy. I look back now and I think this was, I can't believe this happened, that I didn't make a copy of the script, but this is what happened. So she said, all right, I will leave it on the front doorstep in an envelope. You come by, pick it up, run a copy off, and you can drop it back off, and that's fine. But, big but, whatever you do, don't ring the doorbell. Fine. She said, do you hear me now? Hear me closely. Whatever you do, do not ring the doorbell. Okay, no problem. Get up to the house. There's the script on the doorstep. Something in me, I don't know what, compelled me to ring the doorbell. I ring the doorbell. As I'm ringing the doorbell, out the side of the house, and it's a distance, it's a big house, I see Raquel walk out. And she's just, from a distance, I see this, she had a glow around her. It was like a real movie star. And she looks at me like glaringly. She really looks like sharply. If you're writing the script, you said she glares at you. I just grabbed that script and raced back to my car. And I was so, just, wow, shaken by that.
Taken aback.
Yeah, that I just ran back to my car and zoomed out. I get home, and I get a phone call. Oh, well, I ran the copy off and came back and dropped the script off again.
It wasn't long before the perfect vehicle landed literally on her doorstep.
Dropped a script called Kansas City Bomber off on my doorstep in Beverly Hills. And he dropped it off there.
Raquel found a project that had been literally left on her doorstep by an aspiring screenwriter. Entitled Kansas City Bomber, it was a realistic drama about women's professional roller derby.
But I went home and I got a phone call from Vesta. She said, you shouldn't have done that. I told her not to ring the doorbell. Raquel was furious that you invaded her privacy. She's not going to read the script now. She refuses. You blew your chance. Sorry. This is it. Too bad. Bye. Well, at this point I was just ready to hang it up altogether. I was really, really, I was just shattered. So I thought, well, what could I do now? I've gone through all this, I've written the script for her, I've done all this, and it came so close, and then it's suddenly taken away. So I remember walking up and down. I had an apartment on Federal Avenue in West LA. I walked up and down Federal thinking, what can I do, what can I do? I said, I got it. I'm going to write Raquel a letter and just lay it out, exactly what my motives were, what I'd intended for the script to be, and I did. I sat down, I wrote the most heartfelt, impassioned letter. I put practically as much work into that letter as I did in the script. What, I wanted, how I designed this from her, and how I had not meant to invade her privacy, how I was really just, I only wanted her to, to design the script for her, and that, I'm sorry, and I apologized, and I really composed a really good letter. And mailed it, sure enough, Monday morning. This was on a Friday. I mailed the letter that Friday. I wrote it quickly, and I wrote it so it got in the mail. She obviously got it Saturday. Monday morning, I get a phone call from my agent. Raquel loves your script. She wants to do it. Meaning, she got the letter, read it, whatever that was in that letter compelled her to read that script over the weekend, and did it. So the letter did the trick.
And I read it, and I said, gosh, this is a kind of interesting idea.
And I said, oh, yes. I look at it, and it's Kansas City Bomber. It's all about this roller derby. And I thought, yeah, that'd be so great.
The next thing I knew, she wanted to do the movie. So it came about in a very unorthodox way, but I ended up getting the movie made. ICM at the time had gotten the script to Anne Margaret as well, her agent, because it was a talked about script. Anne Margaret loved it. I had met with Roger Smith and Alan Carr about doing it for Anne Margaret, and I loved Anne Margaret, and she hadn't, Carnal Knowledge hadn't come out yet, and they were saying, oh, people are going to take a whole revisionist look at her career now after Carnal Knowledge, and she's going to be considered really a good actress, which indeed happened. But Carnal Knowledge hadn't come out yet. CC and Company had come out, with Joe Namath, And Raquel still had that a higher prestige level at that time. And my heart was with Raquel. And I just, I said, no. And it was too bad because, not too bad. I mean, obviously, what happened to my benefit. But that was the aside. But punchline being, I went to Raquel's house that Sunday. I was invited to Raquel's house. After they made the deal, we made a deal with their production company. They optioned the script, and I went to Raquel's house this time on Sunday. I drove up and rang the front doorbell like
a regular person.
Yeah, like a prince.
Right.
A young kid knocking on the door that I answered.
And walked in, and she greeted me. Couldn't have been nicer. I mean, she was like, I was the long lost son, the prodigal son returning. Quite a difference from, seeing her a few days earlier in the driveway. And we went to the roller derby together and had dinner, and it was the whole family. The son
says, I've got a script here, and he seemed like he had a pleasant face. And I trusted him from the way he looked, and I took the script and I said, I'll let them read this, I promise.
Damon, right? Yeah. And Tawny, the daughter, and Patrick, her husband, who she soon divorced and was out of the picture completely, and Raquel. And that was the story.
That story has followed me all these years.
Then there's a lot more story about how the film got made, but that's the second part.
So I got this film together at MGM, and we made this movie.
In the world of roller games, there's room at the top for only one. And there's only one. Kansas City Bomber.
Written by UCLA film student Barry Sandler.
From that point on, it was a lot of disappointment, because what happened was I had optioned the script to their company. They then took it to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers instantly bought it because they knew it's very exploitational. I mean, Raquel Welch in the roller derby, it's sex, it's action, it's blood and guts, it's great high concept. The studio, however, felt that it was too risky. They had Raquel Welch, they had the roller derby, to do a real heavy downbeat drama. What if she couldn't pull it off? Then you'd alienate her core audience, which was an action audience, and you wouldn't get the highbrow audience. So why risk it? They thought better to go with a straight-out kind of action movie, so you definitely get her audience, and maybe, crossover besides. That was out of my control at that point. That was far beyond my control. I had no say in the matter. And so they thought, in terms of rewriting it, and this was before the Writers Guild ruling that said the original writer of an original screenplay has to stay aboard for at least one rewrite. This was the days where they could, just boot the writer off. So I got the heave-ho, and they brought in, another writer. And then Warner's finally dropped the project, and then United Artists picked it up, and they brought in somebody else to rewrite it. Then they dropped the project. Anyway, it ended up at MGM. It's typical of a lot of movies. They go from one studio to the next. And by the time it ended up at MGM, it changed quite a bit from the original script. The core of it was mine. But I got paid, and I own a piece of the movie.
And the movie was made, Kansas City Bomber.
And offer the actress a role where her sexuality would not compromise the integrity of her character.
The character of roller derby skater K.C. Carr had the combination of physicality and substance that Raquel had been looking for.
I was playing somebody who had struggled, against a lot of adversity.
Raquel snapped up the rights to the material. As the film's producer, she immersed herself in every aspect of production.
I actually produced the film.
In 1972, she produced and starred in her own film called Kansas City Bomber, where she played a feisty roller derby warrior.
Remember,
she produced her own film in 1972 called Kansas City Bomber.
Because I liked always the idea of a very athletic type of a girl.
That was a turning point because my mom was becoming more athletic in the way that she wanted to present herself.
And it would be the first time that I played a mother, too. I thought that it would be a way to change my image. I was playing a mother, so I thought that would be nice. Lo and behold, it turned out that who should they cast for my daughter but was this really cute little blonde girl by the name of Jodie Foster.
And I'd just like for you to notice that when the little blonde girl comes out on the porch, that's Jodie Foster, at I think 10 years old.
That's pretty good. Did you read me? All right, sit down here and catch your breath.
Hey, Casey, I need some new skates. See, these are all worn.
Oh, now you haven't had those
Yeah,
skates
sure.
for a month. Well, she knows all she's got to do is ask you.
They're pretty worn. Concrete's rough on skates, eh? Hey, how's my boy?
Well, thank God he hates skating.
Hey, Casey.
Now, I told you not to call your mother Casey.
Hey, Mom. When you fall down on the track or bump yourself or something, does it hurt?
Yeah, sometimes.
But you don't care.
Well, it's part of the game.
And being a mother, I had also in my real life, I had come to Hollywood with a couple of very small toddlers when I arrived, and I didn't really know anybody. And so I could relate to all of that. And the kind of, I don't know, the kind of old boy network that's always seems to be at the top, at least in those days, in the early 60s. I thought, this is a kind of wonderful chance for me to kind of mix things up. And it's a tough life, a very tough life to be a skater, a professional skater girl in the roller derby. And I wanted to show that sort of nitty-gritty kind of a thing.
Kansas City Bomber was found finally a challenging role and a demanding production.
I challenge you to a match race right here next Saturday night. Baby, you got it.
This is the match race of the century. Here they go. Casey Carr, probably the most important moment in her entire skating career tonight. Look out now. Here comes the bomber. She's got it all at stake here. Right to the eye. Down goes the big gal.
Raquel, you claim not to be athletic, but how did you get the energy to do that roller skating picture?
Willpower. I'm a crazed person. I wanted to play this part. It was one of the first departures from my sex symbol image that I ever did in my career. Most of the other things were sort of much more glamorous. So I decided I had to learn how to skate.
They were interesting people, those skaters.
Very, very, very great girls, you know, really down to earth and very proud of what they did and really thrilled that we were going to do a movie about this milieu. And so it was fun. It was fun to do it.
The demanding role required months of preparation. Never one to back away from a challenge, Raquel plunged into the daily 5-hour workouts.
This is a particularly hard picture physically and technically, and it'd be hard to tackle all of that and the acting when you really haven't had the experience. I mean, I only know now what I didn't know.
I learned and did everything in LA first.
So did they build a track, or
Yes,
did you go to the Olympic Auditorium?
No, on the lot they had a place where they built a bank track.
Okay.
And it was, I don't know if it's this way in the pro circuit, but the actual, the floors or the bank part are made out of plywood.
Yeah, it all comes apart.
When you hit, it's not like hitting hard cement or really hard. It has a little bit of give, and that's what allows you to keep taking those falls over and over again so that you don't kill yourself, because it's very, very dangerous.
And as the star, she rigorously trained for the grueling skating sequences.
She trained with several of the roller derby queens at the time. She would go out and train at the high-banked rinks for 2 or 3 months, and she actually did break her arm during the training.
Barely stopping to recover from a broken wrist.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I am now. It's been a few months. I had a lot of aches and pains for a long time.
Were you excited when you beat out Helen Hayes for the role?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was.
That is really something. Gee.
And so I broke my wrist and just wrecked my whole body. In fact, I still have injuries to this day from it, trying to make that part authentic. And
although I did sustain quite a number of injuries that till this day I still go to the chiropractor. So I guess I'll see all of you girls in New York City.
She studied and did her own stunts and was even injured during the filming, but the sweat paid off.
There was a lot of press on it, and she had broken her wrist while she was practicing skating, so there was all that going on. So, people were the awareness factor of this movie was enormous. So they opened it in this mass, in 1,000 theaters in 1972 in the summer, August. It was a huge opening, so that's what happened. And the film did extremely well. And it went quickly into profits, and I've made a lot of money from my participation in the film. They had this film booked to open, I believe it was August 2nd, in like 1,000 theaters. And what happened was they were originally supposed to start shooting in January to have it ready for August, but she broke her wrist. This was after, and they had to delay the film for 6 or 8 weeks.
And so we had to push the movie back 6 weeks. And then because of that, I was able to go to Budapest and make a film with Richard Burton instead. He didn't care if my arm was broken.
So they didn't start shooting the film until April. But in the meantime, they had the film booked before it was even made, because that's how exploitable and how commercial they felt the concept was. Raquel Welch is a roller derby queen, Kansas City Bomber.
Just located my shoulder 3 times.
Someone didn't pull their punch and I got my mouth split open. That took a few days.
I had a broken neck.
Got a sprain on the back of the wrist.
I busted 2 ribs. Broke my left arm.
All the cartilage is torn up in my knee.
I've had 19 stitches across my head.
All my ribs cracked.
People like to see action.
Someone just pushed you the wrong way at the wrong time and that's it.
So they had the advertising campaign, the poster, everything. That poster mapped out before they even shooting the film. What they hadn't counted on was her breaking her wrist and delaying the film for 6 weeks. So they had to really rush to get the film out in time in all those prints in all those theaters. It took more time then to strike prints of a movie. So they needed all that. They needed to rush this film into release to meet the August 2nd play date. Meaning they were editing the film as they were shooting it. In other words, they'd shot it up in Portland, and they'd send the film back to L.A., and they had a team of editors editing it while they were shooting, because they had to, in that time it took a lot longer, post-production took a lot longer, so they had to speed up the post to get it into the theaters. The first official screening of it was a Friday afternoon, by the way, which I was not invited to, because it was a select crowd, just Raquel, the director, the producers, and the studio executives. But I snuck in, because I said, hey, screw all you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. So I snuck in the back and sat in the back, and when the lights came on and everybody's congratulating each other, I showed up. And they looked at me and said, what are you doing here? But you know what, no one cared at that point because they were all thrilled with the movie, because it just smelled like a winner. And here it was, the kid, because I was a kid at the time, responsible for it. So they, at that point, once again, I was like the golden boy. Everybody was happy.
Was her demeanor consistent towards you throughout?
Well, she was up in Portland and I was in L.A., so I never.
I mean, at that time, at the
she was very happy to see me. Very, very, cordial.
What was your initial response to seeing it? Being it so different.
Mixed feelings. It wasn't my script. It was a long way from my script. But on the other hand, I understood the reasons why they made it that way. And watching it, I just knew it was going to work commercially. So I was torn about it, I was sorry that it wasn't my script, but then I thought, well, if it was my script, it may not have been a hit movie. On the other hand, I wasn't crazy about the movie they made, but I knew that it would have been commercially viable. And the movie went into profits very quickly, because when it came out, it was one of the first, if not the first, movie to go out on a mass release. They opened it in 1,000 theaters in the summer of 1972. Probably the biggest, the widest opening of any movie to date.
So this film opening for me was very exciting. I remember the day it opened, I went to see it at the Americana 5 Cinemas on Van Nuys Boulevard in Panorama City. And it was a successful commercial film. Yeah. And I went to go see it 3 Saturdays in a row. So for me to sit here talking, to you about this is very special. Yeah, absolutely.
Number 11. Yeah. And at the end of it all, she had a hit on her hands.
When I saw it, I coveted the part. I thought, oh, what a great part. Great part. She was awesome in it. And tough. Learn how to skate like that and get rough and physical and then act on top of it. Not easy.
Okay, well, I'm glad you liked the movie, Josh, because
It was good. It was a good part for me.
Well, it's pretty wild. Well, I think it's exciting. It's a fascinating game, the way they score the points and everything. And when they get in fights, I go ape.
Raquel shows the world she's got talent to go along with her beauty.
You're a big fat tub of line, you can't skate anybody.
She was incredible in that movie. I mean, she really showed me that she could act in that movie.
And it turned out to probably be the first really legitimately good reviews I got as an actress, which I was thrilled about.
She began receiving praise for her acting abilities and not just her looks.
With this film, she finally received the praise of reviewers as well as fans.
Audiences cheered Raquel's strong, convincing performance, as did the critics, and she received glowing reviews.
And her first favorable reviews.
But they thought, you know, they had she was on the cover of Life magazine.
Right.
It led to a cover of Life magazine.
And we also made the cover of Life magazine.
Raquel rolled from the success.
It was like, okay, Raquel Welch is finally going to get her act together and move on from the sort of bikini girl beginning. So that was an important thing.
At that point, when you made the cover of Life magazine, in that time, that was, everybody knew that. It was very high profile, beyond anything you couldn't. There's nothing you can compare it to today.
It's my Life magazine here. This was this was it. And there was all these pictures inside. And then it took me another 10 years to get back on the cover when I opened on Broadway in Woman of the Year. So there's two so different worlds.
We'll take a look at some of the film, but you know, it is awfully surprising when people meet you. You must be used to it and sick of hearing it, but you do give the impression of being at least 9 feet tall on the screen. I don't know, maybe partly that poster from, was it 1 million BC?
1 million years BC, right.
Yeah, you looked like you were the same size as the mountains in the background.
Yeah,
so just a giant. Oh, come on, you can't.
I was surprised you didn't introduce me as Raquel Welch, and here they come. That's usually what I
do. That's my joke.
Uh-oh. Well, I know them all by this time. I remember being on one show. I can't repeat that.
I wrote that for Jack Parr years ago. He wanted an
well,
introduction
Johnny's
for
using it now.
a famous... Johnny who? You're kidding. I wrote that for Parr. A long time ago, he had his famous sex star on, and he wanted a introduction for her, and I put, here they come, dum-dum-dum.
Well, I had a really interesting press conference when I first came into town to promote the film with all the sports writers. And they said, gee, you know, you're a nice-sized lady and all that, but you know, you're not exactly what I expected. And I said, I know, I always seem to disappoint people if I walk in the door, and the door hinges don't splinter off, that type of thing.
That's
they
right.
really expect me to, I don't know, come in with a machete or something. I guess I must be pretty intimidating. I always say it's because my shoulders are very broad that I photographed that.
You're right, they are. I hadn't... But there is something that a photographer could explain about something that your features do with the camera. And I don't know what it is, but they're accentuated some way. The bones in your face, I mean, are somehow accentuated so that... I was at a place where you were the other night. We won't say where it was because we weren't supposed to be there. But
Were we?
No.
Oh.
No. But, no, I'm just kidding. But I noticed people walked in and they looked at you and their reaction was, there's an attractive woman, but a number of them did not know it was you because, and they'd seen you on the screen, but there's something happens between you and the camera that's, I don't mean you're a big disappointment in person. That isn't what I'm saying at all. You know that.
Well.
And now, let's take a look at the, film.
Yeah,
It's you, and we're not going to believe it's you.
Yeah, it's me in a match race.
She's in trouble. Casey in trouble now as Jackie Burdett. And Jackie like he's ready for another minute. Casey can keep on
What are you going to do next? A ski movie? Or
No, this is
or?
it. I'll never again. I really enjoyed doing that. I really did.
In the world of roller games, there's room at the top for only one. And there's only one Kansas City Bomber. Raquel Welch is the Kansas City Bomber. And she's the hottest thing on wheels.
Casey, go, 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 Casey, go! Casey Carr up in front. The Bomber is at it again. Randall Fingers, the Bomber.
What I'm going to say, I don't want general knowledge. But when I was scouting you, I was looking for someone I can build into a key personality. I just wanted you to know you weren't brought to Portland to be just another figure on the payroll.
Ladies, let's be ladies here.
Hey, listen, big brother, you're a big fat tubble and you can't skate any better than you look. Okay, I challenge you to a match race right here next Saturday. Baby, you got it.
This is the world of roller games, where the only thing more dangerous than the competition is some of the fans.
Don't laugh at me!
Jackie Burdett. Vivian's trying to get in the middle of it.
You and Jackie can't stand the same team.
Anytime, any place, Sugar Puss, I can tell you right now, Casey Carver start packing all her bras.
Sooner or later, the two of you are going to have it out with a match race.
A match race? You must be joking, man.
Jackie gets what she wants.
Why, baby, you're a big mouth. How about right now?
You get what you want.
Sure, come on.
I told her that there was only room for one of you on the Portland team, and I didn't care which one.
Who will it be? Will it be Jackie Burdett leaving, or will it be Casey leaving?
Come on.
I know I'm not going to miss it.
I hope you don't think I intended for this to happen.
Didn't you?
Yes.
In the world of roller games, there's room at the top for only one.
Time, any place, Sugar Puss. A match race. You must be jokers. I can tell you right now, Casey Carver start packing all her bras. Why, baby, you're a big mouth. How about right now? Sure, come on.
Raquel Welch is the hottest thing on wheels in MGM's Kansas City Bomber. In the violent world of roller games, there's room at the top for only one. And there's only one Kansas City Bomber, rated PG.
Hey, listen, big brother, you're a big fat tubble and you can't skate any better than you look. And I just knew you they're gonna have to put you on the basket.
They recently did another movie that I think it was Drew Barrymore directed called Whip It.
Whip It, yeah.
And I thought I wanted to see it because I wondered if it was going to be anything like this one, but it's so not like Kansas City Bomber. I didn't think it had anything to do with this one. So I was kind of surprised they didn't take on the nitty-gritty of it all, but never mind.
I didn't see it, actually. I'm going to see it now. But this was my film, you know. It's, you know, it's hard
Oh,
to
so sweet.
top it. Yeah, I know. Definitely, yeah.
It's really nice. Thank you. I'm very touched.
Well, It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you.
I'm so thrilled that you've come.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so tell us who this is about. He's like a heat-seeking missile, a smoking hot romantic, a heat-seeking missile. Who are you talking about there?
I was talking about Richard Burton.
Richard Burton?
Yeah, who I did a movie with in Budapest. And he was just so charismatic. He was just really something.
A heat-seeking missile.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
And you're here with Richard Burton?
Yes.
Oh, my
I made a
gosh.
movie with Richard, and then he came to see me on Broadway. And
Richard Burton.
Well, what was Richard Burton like? What you worked with him in 1972 in Bluebeard?
What do you think he was like?
Fabulous, right?
He was fabulous, very, very naughty.
Yeah.
Very flirtatious. Yes, but the cool part was that Elizabeth was on the set a lot, Elizabeth Taylor.
I'm sure she was.
Raquel, come on.
Not like that, not like that. No, she was such a sweetheart. She never, ever blamed me for what she knew he was up to.
You're a power.
And, you know, I have to tell you, he was so charming. I wasn't, you know, okay, come on then. Not just in the...
Not like that.
On the set.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
not
that's
just,
right.
I mean, the wife is right there,
Right.
and she's fantastic.
Right.
And, you know, they had this game, in my opinion, this is just my sort of philosophy of the whole thing, they had this game of torturing one another. Do you know what I mean?
Making
To
them
keep the
jealous.
marriage alive. So he would flirt with whatever pretty co-stars he had, and she would go out to lunch with, I don't know, Aristotle Onassis or something like that. It'd be all over the papers, and he would go, ah, you know.
Yeah,
so,
well, that game didn't pan out, did it?
well,
Bluebeard. A man with an eye for beauty, an ear for music, an appreciation for talent. Burton is Bluebeard. He had a way with the world's most beautiful women. He did away with them.
Why did you kill them?
Why else? They deserve to die. One he shot. One he drowned. One he falconated. One he froze. One he chopped. One he coffined. Two he chandeliered. Richard Burton as Bluebeard. Do you like me?
Of course.
Do you love me? With Raquel Welch,
He was so kind, so gentle.
Verna Lisi,
Oh, love, when I'm near you.
Nathalie Delon, Mary Lou Tolo, Karen Schubert, Sybil Danning, Agustina Belli, and Joey Heatherton.
The great hero, trembling at the thought that his myth might collapse.
Burton, Bluebeard.
I did a movie with Richard Burton. Not a very good movie. Did you see that?
Bluebeard.
Oh, did you? You guys are diehard fans. How sweet.
yes.
I love that. I was crazy, wasn't I?
There are people here who have heard of you, believe me.
No, but I did this really odd thing. I didn't know whether I should let them show it here or not because I did such a strange performance in that. But it was very gutsy. And I thought, well, maybe I should let them just see how whacked out I am. I was, you know. I was like, woo, anything goes. And I played a nun.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny, wasn't it?
The most obvious casting I can think of.
I know a nun. Isn't it fun? So fun.
Our poor, humdrum, commonplace way of life doesn't interest you at all.
I prefer the way of the Lord. After the French boy, the one I told you about, he had a friend, an Austrian. Oh, we were shameless.
Darling,
we made love
please,
everywhere. In the fields,
Please,
on park
please,
benches.
please.
I was really happy for 2 months in London. Then this woman came and took him away. She was English, too.
Oh, darling.
She was his wife.
Darling, shut your mouth and just kiss
No.
me.
First, you must hear about the 2 Italians in Rome, 2 brothers. We all slept together in the same room. Of course, the first time was just to forget. But then, he was so kind, so gentle, so tender, that I ended up falling in love with him. His name was, Christian.
Forgive you. You were not made to forgive. You were made to love.
Oh, wait, there was this Hungarian, but I swear to you it only lasted a week. Oh, yes. I knew there was another one. That Greek from Salonika. I met him in Munich with the 3 Germans I was with at the time.
You quite finished with your vulgar revelations.
Oh, darling, it's just that I want to be absolutely...
It's sincere, yes, I know, sincere. I don't want to know about your sincerity. I just want to love you. I don't care about your sincerity.
You see, I knew you couldn't accept me for what I really am. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Jesus has reminded me of the last one.
But my next film, I'm going to go to the south of France and do a very much more glamorous film, and I'm kind of glad for the change of pace. I really need it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
truly.
tired? Is your career exhausting you? Are they being nice to you, my dear?
Yes, they're being super to me.
Tell me your
Nuggets.
hopes, your dreams.
Really?
What am I saying? I just
No,
wondered. You can get eaten up by a movie career. You can get just absolutely consumed, and don't let them chew you up and take you apart and wear you out and throw you away.
Well, I don't feel very victimized, truly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most of us in films know what we're getting into, and there are a lot of disadvantages. But I really enjoy what I do very much, and I want to continue it. It sure gives me a lot of variety and a lot of insight into a lot of different fields and good travel. I know it's all been said, but it's very true, and I'm very happy in it. It is exhausting, yeah, but I think that, I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
But I think that it's terribly important for us to all stop being so self-centered. I mean, I'm in a business, and I will, indict myself. This is a business that I'm in, and my lifestyle is completely self-serving and self-centered because I'm a performer. But that, I'm at this point in my life, I wonder why I had to choose that kind of a life. Because I honestly think that it would have been much more useful. Although I do think artists play their own role. Useful.
And the voluptuousness of her body, and people could not equate the fact that she was also a very bright person.
I have always felt that because I was a sex symbol, I was being treated something like an ex-con, that I could be let out on parole, but you never knew when I was going to goof up a little and have to come in and slap me around again.
For me to have...
You mean serving the Lord?
No, not serving the Lord, although I could go to a convent.
But the Lord is also served by marriage, by the birth of children.
There are already so many children waiting for a mother's love.
I like charming women. I like women with conflicts. Women on screen are, generally speaking, for me, terribly glamorous, whether they're playing a glamorous role or not, per se. And I think it's empowering.
Thank you all for coming again tonight, for those of you who are here organized. Great to meet you.
Thank you so much for coming here. It's been a thrill for all of us. It's certainly a thrill for me.
Thank you, John.
Raquel Welch.
I'll get outside.
I'm the only person coming out.
Thank you, Raquel.
Thank you, Raquel. Okay, thanks for waiting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Real well, fun. Huh? Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Raquel, will you sign the album? Watch the revolving door. You got to move out.
Be careful, Raquel. You get.
Okay, guys, let's get some space.
Be careful. You don't get hurt.
I like it here because I don't get hit by the wind and it's freezing.
Okay.
Okay. Did you get it, Jeffrey?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's mine.
I love your hair there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Good, right?
I'm trying to get that
My girlfriend. Thank you.
Julie? Raquel, will you sign the album? The girl is back in town.
Okay, let me see this. Whoa. Hold on.
Okay,
Oh, can you hold that?
Okay, guys, you have to give us a pass. We're going to need to go.
Okay. Don't push, please, people.
Thank you, Ryan.
One second. Don't get excited. I'm here. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm so happy to see everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.